Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. It's a podcast where we travel virtually around the UK to meet devotees in the towns and the cities and the villages of Great Britain. And I've actually lost track of the number of podcasts we've done. I think this is edition number 14. I've kind of stopped counting after 10. I think this is edition number 14. And I'm super pleased to say that our guest this week is Amena. Give us a wave, Amena. Now, Amena is from Swindon, which, if some of you don't know, is a beautiful town, kind of North Wiltshire, I think. It's kind of on the M4 corridor. And I think Amena and I first met maybe almost close to 10 years ago, actually, because time goes really quick. Mm-hmm. And I'm really grateful, actually, for Amena coming on as the guest this week at kind of short notice, because we bumped into each other a few days ago in Swindon on a sunny Sunday afternoon in the park at kind of a Nama Hatta Hare Krishna gathering. And Amena was there. Amena's kind of always been there, actually, in the Swindon Hare Krishna community. So, Amena, tell us a bit about, because we, in our conversation on Sunday, you pointed out that it's quite possible that the Swindon Nama Hatta is the oldest in the UK at the moment running. So you've been around the Hare Krishna movement for a long time, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yes, I would say about 25 years and a bit more. Yeah, and we started off as our little group. And yeah, I would say that we've been probably the longest going, continuous going Nama Hatta group in the UK. And I am one of the originals from the early days.
So you must have been about 10 years old when you joined all those years ago. I'm being polite.
I know, no.
So 1996, tell us 1996, tell us about what was happening in Swindon and why you got involved with this small Hare Krishna group.
Okay, well, there wasn't a Hare Krishna group. We were the ones that started the Hare Krishna group. So my ex-boyfriend at the time, Simon Day, we were together. And I'll give you a bit of a history, because sure. I was watching a program on TV, and it was an abattoir, and they were killing these little pigs, literally just slitting their throats and just throwing them into this sink. And that really shocked me. It was just horrifying, and I didn't want to be part of it. And the thought was, I want to be a vegetarian. So although I didn't initially do it straight away, I wanted to be. So Simon, my boyfriend at the time, he had a friend called Matty, and then he became initiated Madhu. So Madhu came round to my flat and looked really odd with wooden slippers and robes. And I remember being in the kitchen saying to him, "What's going on? What is going on with him? There's something not right. He's got these robes and these wooden slippers." But in that evening, he started talking about the philosophy. But the thing that attracted me the most was the vegetarian aspect. And that got me interested, because I was already starting to think like that. So I'm not sure how long after that first meeting, but I still remember the day that I went into my fridge and freezer and pulled out anything meaty, fishy. It was gone. That was the decision that I made. I didn't really understand I didn't really understand. I was the sort of person that was very interested in far out things. So I believed in aliens and ghosts and spirits and, all sorts of crazy stuff. So coming across Krishna Consciousness philosophy sounded really far out and just right up my street, like, hey, this is just really weird stuff, and I'm into weird stuff, so I'm just going to give it a go. So I just started chanting. And we were actually chanting back to front. It wasn't Hare Krishna. It was more like Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. And did that. And then just slowly, just something started happening and things started changing. And over 25 years later, here I am.
That's quite an amazing story. I mean, like a lot of, I guess, Westerners in the Hare Krishna movement in Britain, we're converts. I wasn't raised a devotee of Krishna. I mean, far from it. My family are definitely not devotees of Krishna. They're good people, but they're not devotees. And so you kind of converted. It's a very formal word, isn't it? Converted, but you kind of joined.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that we need to go back a little bit more, actually.
Yeah.
Because I was brought up as a very strict Muslim, very, very strict Muslim. And at the age of 15, my parents wanted me to have an arranged marriage. I knew that was coming.
Wow.
And that is not the path that I wanted to go down. So I ran away. I ran away from home. I lived in squats, streets, I didn't have a home, didn't know where I was going to stay, just found people in the streets and would just stay wherever anyone would let me. And then
15 is quite young to run away from home.
I know, but
it's quite, yeah.
It was either that or, being sent off to Pakistan to get married, and that's not the path that I wanted. And obviously that wasn't the path that Krishna had for me either. He wouldn't have orchestrated everything. But so I left home. So I've always believed in God, believing in Allah. So even though I'd left home and I didn't want to follow the traditional route of having an arranged marriage and having that strict upbringing, that concept of God has always been there. So I've always believed in it. So changing my understanding to Krishna and having that bit more in-depth understanding, it was adding more to what I already believed in. Do you see what I mean? So it's adding more. So yeah, and so I believe now, many years later, that was all planned. That was Krishna planning my sort of journey.
I'm quite intrigued still about this whole kind of arranged marriage thing at the age of 15. I mean, I'm not going to ask you how old you are now because it's a bit rude, but I mean, we're talking maybe 30 years ago that this was a custom in the UK. I know it goes on, so I'm not like so naive. 30 years ago, there was you were born and bred in Swindon, and you were in an environment where at the age of 15, your family were trying to arrange for you to marry someone.
Yeah, because it happened when I was 10, we were forced to go to Pakistan, and my sister had an arranged marriage there, and then we came back, and then we went again when I was 14, and my second sister had an arranged marriage. So I knew from the age of 10 who they wanted me to get married to, so I knew that who it was going to be. So yeah, I just didn't want to follow that path. I wanted freedom. I wanted to go out and party, and I wanted to basically, I just wanted to do what I wanted to do.
As a lot of people do.
Absolutely.
So you ran away at the age of 15. How long did you run away for? How long were you were away for?
I was away from my family for 15 years.
Wow.
So I didn't. So I had a little bit of sneaky contact with my sisters, a couple of them. The others were a bit too young. So I didn't have anything to do with them for 15 years. And
that's a long time.
I know. I went back as an adult at 30. So it took when my dad passed away, and that's when they decided to accept me. And what was interesting, which I think is really lovely, is my brother then sort of became like the head of the family, and he went to the imam and said, look, my sister kind of wants to come back into the family. Can that be allowed, because she's not a Muslim, and can we accept that? And the imam came back and said, at the end of the day, that's your sister and you should always welcome her. And that was really, really lovely. And then it's just been a journey trying to get back into that, into the family life.
So in those kind of 15 years away from your family, which I keep emphasizing is quite a long time, you not only kind of lived your life and got drunk and met boys and all that, but you also kind of discovered Krishna consciousness. So you really were different when you went back to see your family 15
Oh,
years
absolutely.
later.
Yeah, that was Yeah, that was a bit, I think, shocking for the family. But I think they were a little bit prepared because maybe things that my sisters has said to them. When I'm with them, I just refer to Krishna as Allah, which is absolutely fine. I have that respect that I just try not to really talk about things too much, but instead inquire from them about religion and Prophet Muhammad, and just to have that conversation about God and stories and stuff. But yeah, it's very difficult because there was a situation where when I had my second child, my sister said, look, you know, Mum wants to come and visit you, but can you like remove your pictures and stuff? And I was like, look, no, I left home and I made that big commitment and that big decision to do what I needed to do in life. And I'm not going to start changing now. This is how it is. This is what I am. And you just have to go with it or just don't come around. So, yeah, so they're fine. They know that I am what I am. Yeah, we don't really talk about it, you know. Maybe some of my other sisters, which are a bit more open-minded, I might bring in a bit of philosophy when they talk about Islam. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like that in ours, and we think that too, and yeah, I completely get that and I understand that, and you know, so I bring in elements like that when I can. And yeah,
I mean, I wasn't raised a Christian, but I guess I would say I'm from a kind of Christian cultural background. And I went to church a bit as a teenager, and I was involved with some churches in my early 20s. And for me personally, coming to Krishna consciousness has made me appreciate Jesus even more and understand his mission to bring love of God, God consciousness. You know, he was a Shakti Avaisha avatar, a pure devotee, you know, and actually Jesus's teachings are almost exactly the same as our Vaishnav teachings, you know, about putting God first, about serving everybody. And I mean, that I kind of speak from my experience. I mean, in terms of Islam and being Muslim, are those labels that you still identify with?
Oh no.
Not at all.
No, I am I am so far from that sometimes the little traditional things that they do, it's like, oh, okay. No, I do not. I just, Krishna, it's all about Krishna for me.
I mean, obviously using Islam.
There's nothing, the concepts, the ideas, yeah.
I mean, Islam, and to be blunt about it, and I don't upset any listeners by saying this, Islam and Krishna consciousness are poles apart. I mean, there are some similarities to some extent. There are some things in common.
Excuse me. My mother thinks that I worship the devil. Yes. It's very hard to sort of make them understand that because obviously they have that Hindu, you know, she thinks, oh, Hindu. And I'm like, look, Mum, you can have 100 Hindus up and you put them all in a line and you ask them who God is. One would say Ganesh, one would say Shiva, one would say Brahma, one would say Krishna. I said, you can get so many different names. I said, but you put 100 Hare Krishnas up and you ask them who God is, and they would always say, there's only one God, and that is Krishna. I said, so I am not a Hindu, Mum. So I have to really sort of reiterate that quite a bit to remind them that I'm not a Hindu. And then, you know, she might say things like, well, you go and worship your God. And I'm like, Mum, there's only one God. So my prayers and your prayers must be going to the same God. There's only one. But she does see it, and you know, they see it that I'm doing something.
I mean, for me, the obvious huge difference between the two traditions is this idea of, you know, idol worship or worshipping images. Yeah. I mean, in Islam, more than any other tradition, it's like you can't even see an image of God or the Prophet Muhammad.
No, they don't even have pictures up in the homes of themselves. Because there have been some stories, my mum was explaining to me some stories about they made an idol out of someone because of, I don't know, whatever he did. And people started worshipping him, this idol. And so that's where that concept and that idea of you can't just make up idols and just worship anything. So I can understand where they're coming from, because they've got their stories, but obviously they don't understand how Krishna can come in the form of anything, and he can come in the form of brass, stone, and that it's our way to connect with him, and he gives us that opportunity. So yeah.
So what's your relationship like now with your mother? Now you've kind of gone back to the family.
Yeah, it's okay. It's I don't think there'll ever be that sort of closeness. I don't have no attachment. That's one thing that's not there at all. But I have duty that I know that she's my mom. I've got a duty to take care of her and to respect her. But the attachment, and yeah, there's an element. It's taken 15 years. You have to understand. It's taken 15 years to get to this point, because obviously when you leave as a child at 15, you're a child still. I'm still a child. And then you go back at 30. In those 15 years, you've changed and grown. And, you know, I've gone back with 2 kids and a white husband. You know, so much has changed. Like, hello, this is who I am now. But it's cool. It's fine. You know, it's fine. It's good. It's good. It's a good relationship. They respect, I guess, what I do. I just try not to talk about my belief system. That's the easiest way to keep the peace, is just not really talk about it, because then that can trigger. I mean, she prays to Allah for me to come back to being a Muslim, and I'm like, Mum, you carry on making those prayers, because those prayers are following the right path, and getting back to Allah is what I want anyway. So please carry on. That's fine.
I mean, I think the word or the description Allah in Arabic, I think it literally means the one. Or I mean, al. It's you hear that expression a lot in Arabic. Al. I think it means the one, as in the one.
Yeah.
I think. But I mean,
I'm not that knowledgeable on Islam anymore, so I'm just.
I mean, I think I read one story that Srila Prabhupada was actually very encouraged by the Muslim devotion to prayer, that wherever they were, they would stop 5 times a day, you know, devout Muslims, and pray. And Prabhupada was very impressed by that they're putting God, whatever word we use for God or name, you know, he was very encouraged by that.
Well, it is quite nice, because they have to pray 5 times a day. So that's 5 times to be thinking about Krishna, Allah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's not like they focus in the morning, they forget about it in the later on in the day. It is practice throughout the day. So it's that continued remembrance, which is what we try to achieve anyway.
Absolutely.
So in that sense, you know, my mum, if she was a devotee, she would be amazing. She is in her way, but I mean like a Hare Krishna devotee, because she's strict. You know, she won't eat bread from the shop. When we grew up, everything was bread, biscuits. We wouldn't have baked beans, we wouldn't have fish fingers. Everything was cooked from scratch, because she didn't trust. And she's mostly, I would say, you know, a vegetarian. She doesn't trust the meat being halal as well. She doesn't trust that aspect. And she gets up at like 3 in the morning praying.
Wow.
She's when I used to come down in the mornings when we were younger, she'd be up praying on beads. She takes her beads out with her. So she's very devoted. And there's been times when she's talked about Allah and Prophet Muhammad and different stories, you can see like tears in her eyes. So she's very, very, very devoted. Very, very devoted. And yeah.
I mean, in one of Prabhupada's purports in Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, he talks about how he says that if you're a Christian, then read the Bible. If you're a Muslim, then read the Quran. Everyone should do something to try and be God conscious, to try and become, you know, spiritual. You know, this mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, is the best mantra for this age. But in to any extent, any name will do. If you're a Christian, then chant the name of Jesus, and if you're Allah, if you're a Muslim, chant the name of Allah. And I've been to quite a few Muslim countries in my time. So I've been to Dubai, I've been to Turkey. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was in Turkey and I was at this kind of market. And it was so, you know, in the Hare Krishna movement, we can chant on beads or we can chant on clickers. And I remember seeing this Muslim lady counting on a clicker. She was working, and I thought that is exactly the same clicker as I've got to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and she's chanting the 99 names of Allah, and it's probably the same company that makes it. So I was quite overwhelmed with that small thing.
The mantra is for me, when I started chanting it, and I was still at the early days, because I started on the path probably when I was about 17. So I was still doing nonsense stuff, but still chanting alongside it. And I was very committed, because even being intoxicated and being out all night long at a rave, I would still have to say to my friends, okay, I've got to go and do my chanting now in an intoxicated state, because it was my commitment. I've got to do my rounds. But then slowly, because this was in the early days, so I was mixing things up. And what really changed it for me was meeting Radhanath Swami. I'd heard so much about him, like how amazing and far out he is. And again, you know, I like far out things, and it's like, okay, if this is a far out devotee, I've got to meet him. And I still remember the day we was at the temple. We were sat outside on the lawn, and someone said, oh, Radhanath Swami's here, but he was taking a walk around the lake. And I was just there and just praying like crazy in my mind, like, Krishna, please send him over to us. Please, we had our own little Swindon group. Please send him over to us. And he did it. Krishna brought Maharaj over to us. He came and sat down. We talked, and he just captured my heart. He really did. And that's when things, you know, changed, because he just captured me in.
And this was back in the 90s.
Yes,
when you kind of first got
in the
involved.
early days, before Maharaj became famous, and where you couldn't even spend a minute with him. I have letters from Maharaj in the early days. He used to write to me. So we made a real beautiful connection, and I would write to him and he would write to me. And that's what, you know, and he came to Swindon.
Wow. I never knew that Radhanath Swami went to Swindon.
Yes. And this is another special story, because I asked him to come to Swindon, and he said he would come. And then I don't know the devotee's name, but he used to take care of Maharaj when he'd be in the UK. And he said, Maharaj has come to Swindon on your request. He's come for you. I was like, great. So we had this like meeting with him, me and my ex-boyfriend at the time, Simon. And it's me, Simon, Maharaj, we're in this room, and I was just talking to him. And I was just telling him about everything I was getting up to. And there were some shady things going on in my life at the time, like you do. Maybe not everyone, but for me, yes.
We've all got a background. We've all got a past.
Yes, absolutely. So Maharaj was really shocked, the things I was telling him. And he just said, you've got to stop. Just stop. And I was like, okay, I will. But I've just got a few things, shady things left to complete, and then I'll stop. And I did. And that was it. He had that conversation with me. He told me to stop, and that was it. So I left my shady path and came onto this beautiful Krishna Consciousness path, you know, and then it just developed. And here I am, still 25 years on.
I mean, 25 years is a long time. And I've heard some of the stories from yourself and from others about, you know, the kind of Hare Krishna explosion in Swindon.
Oh, absolutely. It was.
And I think you told me the other day, there's only 2 of you left from that original group.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's you and Steve.
Me and Steve are the originals, and then Nitai came in a little bit later.
Yeah.
It was an explosion. It was amazing. We had so much attention. They would come down and see us. Like Adi Guru, he would come and see us, and we'd go to the temple. It was just all a buzz, and it was passionate and fiery and exciting, and yes, it was.
You say it with so much passion. Yes, it was fantastic.
Yes, I'm not saying it's not that now. It's just it was all sort of new, you know, and like I said, I like far out things. So to me, it was like, wow, this is just amazing stuff, and this is far out stuff. And even though some people couldn't maybe understand some of the stories, and to me, it just went in, and it was just an acceptance, if you see what I mean. And it was because we did have they tried to take care of us. So the temple, send people down. We've had enough Swami. We've had quite a few Swamis that would come down because Swindon was on the map,
Yeah.
Send them down there, send them to see us. So we'd have festivals. It was very exciting. But obviously we're sort of established. We, the visits don't really tend to get any.
And obviously for the last year, things have been tough because of the pandemic, and people haven't been traveling. And some of our listeners, our viewers may know this, or may not. Some useful piece of ISKCON history is that Jayantinanda Maharaj is from Swindon.
Yes.
So he was born or appeared. He appeared in Swindon mysteriously.
Yeah, he was born in Swindon. So he actually has a special connection. So he's the only one Swami that we still receive, and very happy to have him when he comes. But we haven't seen him for a while. But it's always lovely. Because I guess he was. He's been around.
I think Nitai. So anyone doesn't know who we're talking about Nitai Creeper, who's kind of been running Hare Krishna stuff in Swindon for a long time. He did point out to me where the house where Maharaj was born, or where he lived as a child or a baby. And I find it quite interesting comically, because Swindon originally was called Swine Town. And I think before that Pig Hill, because it was a place where slaughterhouses and pigs and meat eating, like most of the country. The village I live in now used to have a abattoir, slaughterhouse as well. So and obviously appearing in that town where the slaughter used to happen is actually quite a long-standing Hare Krishna group, group of devotees that, irrespective of the times past, have rallied together to chant Hare Krishna. So it's quite encouraging actually, and I, in a very bizarre way, I mean this, I actually quite like Swindon. Whenever I visit Swindon, I see there's something new, there's a new development, and I always like coming to meet the devotees there. And there's always that kind of get up and go attitude. We're going to do things.
Absolutely. If there's anything, Nitai leads things. I'm just there to serve him in whatever way he wants me to serve.
I remember many years ago, a memory that stands out is I think it was somebody's birthday, and you made an Ekadashi cake. And I was really impressed that you made an Ekadashi cake, and it was so tasty. It was wonderful.
We used to have devotees that used to come on a bus to Swindon many years ago. I would used to make bread and take them prasadam, take it into town for them, take it onto the bus for them. Yeah, just try to, any opportunity that comes that way, just to embrace it.
So you've got 2 children, I think. And what do they think about your kind of Krishna conscious journey and activities?
Well, they've been brought up from the day one, so they've not known any different to them. But my daughter's now, she's taken this scientific route, and she's funny. She's like, I just don't know, Mum. But when she thought she was dying, which was about 6-8 months ago, because I've explained to her that to chant Krishna's name or think of Krishna when you, when you're dying, is really special, and to have that opportunity. So she's like, Mum, I thought I was dying, and you won't believe it, she says, I was actually praying to Krishna and thinking of Krishna.
Wow.
She said, so I'm actually very lucky, she says, because I could think of him at the time of death. I said, but you didn't actually die, Cleo, so, but it's nice. But when she was younger, she had this dream that she still remembers now, and she was at her childminders, and Krishna and Balaram were playing with her in the garden. And she still remembers that dream to this day. Still remembers. But she has some questions about things, and I try to give the answers, but there's still more questions that just keep coming, and I can't seem to satisfy what she's asking. So she's
It's good to question things. I don't think we should follow things blindly. It's really good to question things.
It is, but she, she's been brought up with it, but she doesn't practice anything. I'm hoping that, at the end of the day, when she thought she was dying, who did she think of? Krishna. So obviously that seed's been planted, and who was she thinking about? So I've done something right there. So I just hope that she will find her way back. Situations, things might happen in life that brings you back to that path again. As Krishna never forgets anything that you do. She's done lots of little things for him when she was younger, making things for him, offering flowers, incense, chanting, singing, dancing. So all
Krishna knows and sees everything.
Absolutely.
Even when we forget.
Exactly. So he won't forget anything. My son, he's 15, and he's not like her. He completely believes in Krishna. He believes that Krishna's there and he's real, but he's just in a teenagery, rebellious stage at the moment. Very challenging.
As I was as a 15-year-old boy all those years ago, I
rebelled. I rebelled against the family. So I understand. That's all I can say about him. And my husband, he is a kami, but he's a good kami. Okay. So when I say that, he is vegetarian like me, obviously, and I couldn't ever. That was one of the things, actually, because that's actually quite interesting to talk about him, because he was brought up as a very big meat eater. His dad was a butcher.
Wow.
So all he ate was meat. Loved lamb chops. And when his family met me, it was a bit of a shock to them to meet someone that was a vegetarian. So I was with him at the beginning, just sort of seeing him, but when it started to get a bit more serious, I said to him, "You're going to have to give up the meat. That's my number one big thing. You've got to give it up, because I cannot be intimate, close, and build up that loving relationship with someone that consumes flesh and making their graveyard a stomach for animals." And that's, for me, I can't be part of that. That's how strongly, for me, that was a big thing, and I couldn't have that in my life. So he gave it up. So even though he didn't eat vegetables, didn't eat fruit, and but so now he's really cool. He'll be like, "Has that been offered yet? Can I have that yet? Have you offered this yet? Oh, you better offer this. Can you offer this so I can have this?" And so it's cool.
I love it. I really love it. And what do his family, obviously they come and visit and everything, and then you see these pictures of Krishna in the kitchen.
No, they're fine. They're so used to it now. Like, we was at a party. I say party, it was a someone's surprise party, and they know what I'm like. I'm quite outspoken and loud. And so I went round to, apart from two of them that were, anyway, doesn't matter. I went round to every single one. I said, "Please," I said, "it's a special day for me, and I need you all just to chant the Hare Krishna mantra once." So I held hands of every single person, and they looked into my eyes and chanted the Hare Krishna mantra. And if they come round, like the younger ones, I'm like, "Oh, look, Krishna here. So do you want to offer some flowers?" He loves it when you offer him flowers. So they're used to me doing,
because you're quite an extrovert character, aren't you?
Absolutely. So I'm not shy about it. I am what I am, and this is how I do things, and I have to offer.
They might just think you're some kind of crazy lady that goes round or something. No, I mean that in a positive way.
Yeah, they do probably think that. His mum says that to me. "Oh, you're just a nutter, Amena." But still to this day she'll say that, but a toned down version. But they accept me for what I do. They know that I have to offer stuff, and they know that they're eating prasadam, and they know that.
And hopefully they like it as well. They taste something that's quite magical, because prasadam isn't just vegetarian food. I mean, I've taken friends to prasadam restaurants or whatever, and they think, "Wow, this is like not just rabbit food. There's something quite special about this."
I would agree, because my son, he has a girlfriend, and she comes round quite a lot. And she says, I don't know what it is about your food. She says, but I always eat it all. And she says, I never like cake, but I like your upside down pineapple cake. So, and then she'll say to him, oh, is this been offered? You know, has this been blessed? And my son will go, yeah, you know, my mum blesses all the food, apart from obviously some of the stuff that they will eat with onions and garlic that I do for them. But so she feels something different there, because she even saying now, she goes, I don't know why. She says, but I always eat your food. And I'm like, because it's been blessed. I said, and because it's holy blessed food, that's why. So she's got that concept now of something being special and something being different. But yeah, I would absolutely agree that there is, in Prasadam, it does taste different, and people can feel that vibe and feel there's something different about that.
Kind of another question I was going to ask earlier, in terms of your children's relationship with your mother. I mean, do they understand your kind of Pakistani heritage? Do they identify with that?
No, they consider them, no, absolutely not. They don't even really have that relationship, because my daughter was sort of, I suppose, 7, 8, and I was still trying to build up that relationship. She doesn't, even though she knows their family, she doesn't have that association at all. She is British, and and doesn't see that element in her life, and doesn't see that at all. But my son, he more embraces his Asian side, because I think with my daughter, she didn't have one Asian friend, where my son has, and he mixes. So he kind of.
Is that because of where you live in Swindon, or the type of community you live in?
I've lived mostly in the same place. I don't know. I guess it's just at school. He went to a different school that were more Asian.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I've certainly noticed Swindon over the last decade or so become more multicultural, diverse.
Oh, absolutely. There's a very big Goan community that have over like the last 15 years. There was some sort of cut-off point.
And there's a Hindu temple now in Swindon.
There is a Hindu temple.
5 years ago, I think, or something.
There is a Hindu temple. We used to go there. Nitai arranged something for us once a month to go there to chant for them. But I don't.
Yeah, shouldn't confess this on this podcast, but we have a new Hindu temple in Bath, and it's been open and the Hindus took 15 years to find the building, and they've worked so hard. I'm so pleased for them. And the temple's been open 2 weeks, and it actually isn't far from where I live. I just haven't I will go, because the principal deity is Lord Jagannath, but I just hasn't been a priority of mine to go yet. Other stuff have happened, and I will go. I mean, yeah.
See, if it was if it was ISKCON, you'd be.
Oh, I'd be there.
Exactly. So
I'd be on the welcome. I'd be welcoming people come in.
Yeah, it's like going to the Hindu temple. It was lovely going there, but I didn't feel a oneness there. I felt different. But then when I walk into an ISKCON temple, I feel it more, because it's proper Pad's place, isn't it? What he created for us, the shelter. So to me, it feels different, even though they're there. But it's I guess it's because they've got so many other different pictures and
demigods
and stuff. And to me, it's like, it's all about Krishna. So not about everyone else.
So you have a job.
I do. I am a dyslexia specialist.
Wow.
I work on a one-to-one on a specialist role, and I also diagnose for dyslexia too.
Wow.
So I do a bit of both.
And we were chatting the other day, and then I asked you to be on the podcast. Is that in terms of you work in kind of further education in college, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And the description special education needs is not used at that level. It's specific
learning difficulties.
I remember.
Yeah,
yes,
which is shortened for SBLDs.
Yeah.
But SEN, the special educational needs, is just a term that, you know, they tend to use in primary schools. They
Special
haven't
needs.
really sort of moved forward. But
It's actually quite an old-fashioned term.
it
When I
is,
was at secondary
exactly.
school, we used to have a special educational needs unit when I was at secondary school, which sounds like it's some kind of hospital, doesn't it? So it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just don't use those terms when you're in the college environment at all.
And so you've worked in the there's one college in Swindon, right?
Yeah, they've merged now, so it's become one college. Yeah.
And you've worked there for a long time in the same role?
Yeah, 10 years now. Because I when I left home, I left school. So I had no GCSEs. I had nothing there really at all. And I was just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And it just got to the point where I realized that I needed to do something. So I went back, did my GCSEs, then moved on to my A-levels, then I moved on to my degree, then moved on to another qualification to get where I am now. So, but I trained in primary teaching. That's how I started off, and then I moved up. But I teach in my private work, I teach a whole range. So I have little ones in my private work, and I have older ones in my employed work.
I find it that really inspiring and encouraging, because even though you kind of dropped out from education at 15, you then later on in life went back to education, you know. And did you think maybe drive you to do the job that you're doing today, because you left school at 15? Do you think there's a link? Or
I would say, because when I saw this particular role that was working as a one-to-one specialist tutor, I was like, oh my God, that is perfect. Because you get the opportunity to look at to be with the person holistically. Because when you're in a classroom and you've got 30 children, it's hard to be able to give that what some of them maybe need. So working on a one-to-one means that you can talk to them about other things. You can go off on a tangent here. You can go off here. You can just do whatever. And when students come to me that have that, whatever reasons that they've not succeeded in the school, I'd always bring up my past, and I say, look, I didn't have anything. I said, and back then people would have said, oh, Amena, what's going to happen to you? And I'm able to say to them that anything is possible. Because Prabhupada did say, didn't he, that impossible was a word in a fool's dictionary. So I tell students that. I tell them that, that anything is possible if you just sort of put your mind to it. I mean, I don't mean anything. I mean, you can't fly. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't fly.
Realistically possible, that you can. And so I tend to sort of understand children quite well, and I understand them and don't judge them and don't look at them and think, oh, wow, you've got no chance. I don't have that. I remember I used to work as a supply teacher, and I remember listening to a teacher tell a person that you're never going to amount to anything. And I just thought I was wrong to say that, because I left home 15, left family, no, all the Asian community just completely, that was it. Didn't want nothing to do with me. Friends that I grew up with wouldn't talk to me. There was nothing there. And so yes. And so I didn't have their support going to uni. I didn't have any of that. So it can be done, can't it? I am proof.
Yeah, I mean, somebody said something similar to me about 10 years ago, was something I was involved with. And they said that I never amount to anything, which actually spurred me on, because I realized at a young age, it sounds a bit philosophical, but it's good to respond to something negative with something positive. And I thought, well, I'm going to do something positive to prove that person wrong, and that's always, stuck with me, when they said I wouldn't amount to anything. Well, I've tried to, do things and do positive things. So 25 years of the Hare Krishnas in Swindon, and hopefully another 25 years, you never know. I'm sure you and I will still be around then. Yeah, it's quite amazing actually, 25 years, and it's definitely something that should be celebrated. It was good to be with you all in the town park in Swindon last Sunday and just see the community there. There was 30, no more than 30 of us. I might have actually
it might have been a bit more, but
I've forgotten what the rules are actually at the minute. I can't remember.
It is supposed to be 30, yes. Yeah.
There was maybe a bit more.
We've got a bit more of a few more sort of Indian bodied personalities that have been coming through, which has been really, really nice, because I'll be honest, back, just a few of us used to have to do the whole Prasadam, and that was a lot of cooking. So now it's quite nice thinking, I only have one thing that I have to focus on to make, or two things. So it's nice to be able to share that and to have actually people that are sincere, and
well, I also came to a kirtan in the same park in Swindon last August, and there were also around 30 people there as well. So, I mean, I'd certainly say that easily with the kind of growing Indian community, there's around 30 of you literally in the, in the Nama Hatta in Swindon, which is quite a big Nama Hatta. 30 people.
30 people, yeah.
You should be opening a temple soon. Is that something that's ever been considered or thought of?
It has. We have talked about that. It's the commitment to do that, because obviously when we've thought about that before, I've had young kids working, trying to do that. One of my dreams, though, have been to have this, like a cafe and a little temple upstairs, but the cafe would not have chairs where you actually sit. It would be low down tables, incense, candles, books where people could just go, because think about it, where can people go to socialize? You've got pubs, restaurants, and sometimes people don't want to go to pubs and restaurants. They want like an atmosphere where maybe you might want to go and sort of socialize with people on a level that's a bit more open, a bit more spiritual, not necessarily Hare Krishnas, but just open, really. And have like a little cafe, and I've had thoughts of that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly quite a few devotees around the country, instead of running a temple, they'll run like a center. So there's maybe no deities residing there, but certainly I know Minikate and Rama and Bristol for a long time has been running a center.
Oh wow, yes, yes.
And he's he's a real inspiration to devotees in the Southwest. He's a real soldier for Krishna consciousness.
Absolutely.
He just carries on and on and on.
He does, no matter what.
And I think there was a center in Edinburgh for a while, and so that center is kind of like a halfway house, and it's not a temple, so you don't have to have a pujari there several times a day. It's more of an informal place where you do kirtan, and often shop fronts do come up that have that, and the rent is very cheap in some places. I mean, as
the community is getting bigger and we're having more of that sort of support, it is something that could be done. I don't know. Maybe.
We'll have to see. Well, in 25 years' time, we'll be talking about this, I'm sure. 50 years of the Hare Krishnas. Well, that's got 50 years of the Hare Krishnas in Swindon. Believe it or not, Amena, we've done almost an hour chatting today, and it's been really interesting to find out about your kind of Pakistani Muslim heritage, running away from home at 15 and not going back for 15 years, finding out about your ex-boyfriend, which was fascinating. And I'm actually very intrigued by your early conversations with Radhanath Swami, because I haven't been around as long as you, and I've always seen him as this kind of big guru, and you can't go near him, or it's very difficult to go near him. So the fact that he was coming to Swindon.
I've got letters from him. And I have to say this, but in the early days, I was in the temple room dancing. I was completely, in a skirt, little top, not a really little top, but I just didn't have that, the understanding. I would never dress like that now. But anyway, I was dancing, and he saw me, and he came up to me and he said, "Oh, you're dancing." He goes, "You used to dance like that in your last life." That's what he said to me. And that was just like, wow, Krishna's brought me back again. It's such a lovely thing to hear from him. But yeah, it was him. It's Maharaj. It's because of him, and I know his prayers because of his letters, the prayers that he's made to Lord Nityananda, and for us to be at his lotus feet together again sometime. It's because of that and him that I am still here today. And that's what I truly believe. And obviously chanting, because obviously I'm showing Krishna that, I want, but, all my lectures that I listen to, I might listen to others, but it's always Maharaj. It's just, I don't know what it is, but his words just penetrate deep inside me. It really is amazing.
And well, I have to say, if you manage to persuade Radhanaswami to visit Swindon again, I will come as well, because I want to see that. And we'll take lots of that's the challenge, to get Radhanaswami to Swindon.
That's a good challenge. So next time he's in the UK, I will just boldly walk up, because I have that relationship with him. I can do that. I've got letters from him. I have a relationship with him.
It's really good. It's really good. It's always good to find a guru that you have a connection with, because ultimately we all need to be connected to Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara system back to Lord Chaitanya. And one of the great things about ISKCON, I call it collective guruship. I think there's around 82 initiating gurus in ISKCON at the moment. Most are sannyasis, some are grihastas. And we can connect to Srila Prabhupada through one of those leaders.
Absolutely.
If we feel the desire to do so. And that's one of the great things about ISKCON, is so many gurus to choose from.
With Radhanaswami, he's just been there from the early days. That's who I've made that connection with. And
I listened to one of his talks quite a while ago, and something he said really stood out to me, because at that point I was kind of turning from Christianity. And there's some things in Christianity I was unhappy about. The theology was a bit difficult, in heaven and hell, 70 years.
I know.
And Radhanath Maharaj said something that kind of really resonated with me. He said, well, he didn't say it to me, I heard it on a talk. He said, well, we all, we all go home back to Godhead eventually. We all go there eventually. Some take longer than others, and some need more help than others. And that really,
some need to do a little detour. Go off here, go off there, different places, and eventually we make it back.
And I needed to hear that at that point in my life, because coming from a kind of Christian experience where 70 years on earth, or 80 years, or 100 years, and your actions in this life determine eternity in heaven or eternity in hell. And I was really depressed by that, because
what kind of way is it to think of God, that he is supposed to be all loving and merciful? He's going to send you to hell
and torment you for all eternity.
Forever. And
let's say you have a parent. So in real life, you have a parent, and let's say I had a son. I don't have a son. Let's say I have a son, and he murders someone. I will accept that he needs to go to prison for a period of time, maybe 20 years, to repent for his sins, to do his time. But I wouldn't want him to be tormented forever.
Exactly.
And it's a very difficult concept with kind of Christianity. And I think Islam.
Yes, very much the same, because
hell forever.
Because because Muslims, they can, this is what my mum said, is that Muslims can, at that time, Judgment Day, they can save someone, but I'm unsavable. I can't be saved, because I'm considered a kafir, which is someone that sort of does idol worship. That's considered like the worst thing. They would be more happier me being a Christian than a Hare Krishna, because of that idol.
Well, kind of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they're kind of same prophets, similar theology.
Similarities, so in that sense.
They're all from Abraham. They're all the three Abraham. They all started with Abraham. So there's similarities. And even I think in the Quran, I have actually read the Quran a long time ago. I've got a copy on the shelf here. There is a whole chapter, I think, dedicated to Mary, I think, Jesus's mother. So there's more. It's easy to convert between those three than to join the Hare Krishnas.
Absolutely.
Wow. What a world. Okay, we're coming up to an hour. So thank you to everybody who has tuned in this week here on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're watching this on Facebook, please do like it. Facebook unfortunately hasn't created a dislike button yet, so please like it, please put a positive comment and share with others, and also you can follow this podcast on YouTube as well. All of the details are in the links, and also on this Facebook page I will continue to share exciting news about things happening in Swindon. I'm so relieved it's not called Swine Town anymore.
I know, it's not nice.
Swindon sounds a bit more diplomatic. And it's literally halfway between Bhaktivedanta Manor and Bristol or Cardiff. So if you're a devotee living in London and one day you are traveling to ISKCON in Wales or Bristol, do stop off in Swindon.
And can I just say one thing? We are really known for our exciting Prasadam. We are known for Prasadam.
I agree.
Do you agree?
I mean, yourself, Padma Malini, fantastic cooks, and you always.
I'm just saying we all participate, but we really try to, treat whoever comes and offer them plenty and different things. Yes, and I am known to make the cakes when we're making cakes. That's cake lady.
Wow. So
So please, come on.
Obviously, hopefully we're coming to the end of this depressing pandemic. And then when things have ended, events will start happening in Swindon, like festivals. I was going to say Rathiatra then. Maybe you never know, Rathiatras and festivals. And if I want you all to remember this podcast and high recommendation to go to Swindon. So thank you, Amena, for joining us this week. Hare Krishna. And we're best wishes for another 25 years in Krishna Consciousness.
Let's see what happens.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Until next week. Hare Bo.